right, Duran 6-4 is down. We're going back in to get him.
That's crazy. Is there anyone alive on that?
Doesn't matter. No one gets left behind. You know that.
Wasting time here.
All right. Refit, max out ammo and grenades. You got 5. Sizemore, where the hell do you think you're going? For you guys. Now with that cast on, you're not. All right, all right, all right. Get your cape up. Hey. Talk to me.
I can't go back up there.
Thomas, everyone feels the same way you do. All right? It's what you do right now that makes a difference. It's your call. Cool? Cool.
Fire up that arm.
It'll probably have to wash the blood out of the Humvees.
Gonna go start! You got some ammo! Love that, Sword. Hop in!
What is up, Rio Hondo Prep football fans? Welcome to the CIF Southern Section Division 5 semifinals between your Rio Hondo Prep Kares and the Serna Lancers. This game has been on a lot of people's horizons a long time, however you want to say it. People's, just looking forward to a game like this in the future, whether scheduled during the regular season or by chance happen to meet up in the playoffs. And wouldn't you know it, with the Kares continuing to participate at higher levels, they will in fact be taking on those Serna Lancers from Whittier, who have had themselves a heck of a run themselves the past couple of years, alongside the Rio Hondo Prep Kares, their neighbors to whatever that is, the west, the northwest, if you will. Serna with a Division 4 championship in 2023, as well as a runner-up finish in 2024 at Division 5. So they're used to kind of this level of play. The Lancers also were victorious in 23 as a state champion, winning, I believe, Division 2 AA, I think it was, something like that. But the Lancers 9-3 on this current season, and poised to get back to the championship game for a third consecutive year, much like the Rio Hondo Prep Kares are striving for as well. So the Lancers have a Southern Section championship under their belt from 2023, as well as a state championship, something that is very coveted from the Rio Hondo Prep Kares after falling short last year, in 2024. 42-41 to Vanden from up north. But the Rio Hondo Prep Kares, back-to-back Southern Section champions in Division 9 and Division 7, respectively, looking to get back to that title game themselves, albeit in Division 5, the highest level they have ever competed in. And so far, so good for the Rio Hondo Prep Kares in consecutive weeks, going out to Thousand Oaks, taking down that squad 50-34 last week at home at Arroyo High School in El Monte. A 28-0 victory over the very season-proved the Troy Warriors, who came to us from Fullerton. So Rio Hondo Prep with an impressive win there. Could have scored again, but took a knee, the classy thing to do there late in the game as the clock was winding down. So the Rio Hondo Prep Kares and Serna Lancers, you could argue, have been on a collision course, this hypothetical collision course, for a long time. They were always like a division above us, right? Or a couple of divisions, obviously being in D4 a couple of years ago, and us in D9. So you've seen how the pendulum has kind of swung. Not that they've dropped a lot by any means, nothing but respect for the Serna Lancers, but Rio Hondo Prep had to jump up a few divisions and get to, catch up with the Lancers, if you will, even though the Lancers last year in Division 5 fell in the championship game. So a runner-up finish for them last year. Again, these two teams, the past 2 years in the Southern Section championship game, in back-to-back seasons, with the Kares winning 2 and obviously the Lancers winning 1. But they do have that state championship from 2 years ago that I know Rio Hondo is kind of craving as well. So, the intro there, who's ready to rumble? I think we're in for a brawl on Friday night. As of now, breaking news earlier today, I'm recording on Monday night. It does look like this game will in fact be played at Covina District Field. There's a movement there from Arroyo High School. I guess Arroyo has a band practice thing going on. So it was unavailable, but it's unofficial as I speak to you now on Monday evening. But when you guys hear this on Wednesday, it will probably all be confirmed that this game will be at Covina District Field. And me personally, as a guy who grew up in the East San Gabriel Valley, who went to so many Covina District Field games as a kid, going to watch my cousins, the Northview Vikings, play on a ton of those games. Later, becoming an official and officiating games on the old Covina District Field, right? The field that ran east. Let's see, it ran east west. So it used to run north south. Now it runs east west. The dirt parking lot, the no track, the grass field. If you guys remember, in 2009, Rio Hondo Prep played a championship game there against Linfield Christian, a Rio Hondo home game, neutral site. Total mud bowl, downpour, just rained nonstop, and Rio Hondo lost that game 9-6. So a return to the scene of the crime. I get not the scene of the crime. Linfield, won that game fair and square, and that brings up a point to me. Like, I know Rio Hondo fans, we talk about, man, that game in 2009. If that was a dry field, we would have won that game. Well, it wasn't a dry field, and I heard this a lot last week. With all these teams, man, if it was dry, if it wasn't raining, we would have won. Well, it's not like it stopped raining for one team versus the other. Both teams had to deal with it, and both teams had to deal with the elements. So I don't always buy that argument. I mean, maybe, yeah, I guess you could say, well, they're better on a rainy field than we were, or whatever, vice versa. But yeah, I don't know. It's just it doesn't always sit well with me. It's like, yeah, both teams played in it. It wasn't like, oh man, you wish you had a clean surface, right, for an equal fight, but it's always equal because they got to play in it too. So anyway, that was just some thoughts for mine last week when you heard a lot of excuses for teams that lost in the quarterfinal round, and not really excuses. I think we get disappointed when we lose, and one of these teams, unfortunately, will lose on Friday night, and their season will be over. The quest for 3 consecutive championship game appearances will be all but gone. And I got to tell you, man, when I look at this game, the Division 5 semifinals, I got to take my Rio Hondo hat off for a second here. When I look at the San Gabriel Valley and the greater landscape, and I try to look at the games from back in the day when I was watching high school football, whether it was Northview or Charter Oak or Glendora or whoever, right? Some great teams that played. San Dimas has had some great teams. West Covina, man, how about what they've done? They put up quite a few points on Lucerne in a championship game about a decade or so ago. I was at that game. But man, just there's so many great teams out here, and you could argue all these different matchups, right, that have come up in the championship, come up in the finals. The first championship game I went to, I think, was 95. Rio Hondo was in a championship game that year also, but it was Lompoc at Covina District Field, where we're going to be playing this Friday night against Covina. And Covina won that championship game 23-21. I don't know why I remember these things off the top of my head, but I got to tell you, for someone who grew up watching football in the San Gabriel Valley, especially the east side over here, for someone that officiated in the Foothill Citrus area, which is basically the 15 freeway all the way out to the 605, down to the 60 and kind of just outside that perimeter. I keep trying to, again, take my Rio Hondo hat off and not think, not be biased here, but I do honestly think this is one of the biggest games in the San Gabriel Valley history. I in the postseason, when you take into account everything, when you take into account the drama, public school versus private school, two schools that have been competing at a very high level, that whole what if they ever played each other vibe. If you take into account the history of the schools, kind of where Rio Hondo, this tiny school that started in 6-man in the 60s and then 8-man, and then here they are, this steady growth. La Serna kind of stepping forward and taking over, we'll say, a lot of the headlines the past 3 or 4 years, performing better consistently than Charter Oak, than Bishop Amat, who has a better track record, the past few years. When you take into account all that, again, I'm trying not to be biased here. I do think this is one of the biggest playoff games in the San Gabriel Valley history, and that's not to take away from any games that happened before that. I'd like to think I was at a lot of those games when another one, although this is kind of, can you consider Upland and Diamond Bar in the late 90s, 99 and 2000, that championship game. Go look that up if you want to know about drama and everything. It was a 5th down, and then anyway, there's been some phenomenal games in the San Gabriel Valley. That was a championship game, by the way. And I think I have a pretty good knowledge of it for someone my age anyway. I'm going to put the Rio Hondo hat back on and just, speak freely here. But I do believe, I don't know, man, if you're not out at this game Friday night, I don't know what you got going, but it's the Friday before Thanksgiving. I know the Friday after Thanksgiving is championship Friday, and, we all have a lot going on there, but I want to get your opinions. If you're listening to this and you're all know Matt so-and-so played in 2020 or 1990, whatever. I believe there's been bigger games. I believe there have. But as far as recent history, now we got to go back also to 2021, Rio Hondo Prep against Charter Oak. And we keep bringing that game up, and I know the Chargers out there probably don't like it, but some things never die. Some things stats never end, whatever you want to say. And the beauty of the Charter Oak game in 2021 is that started this whole thing. Now, the current seniors were in 8th grade at the time, but we've talked about it at Rio. When you're looking up to teams, when you're looking up to those Rio Hondo high school guys, when you're in 8th grade or whatever, you're chomping at the bit to get out there. And I got to imagine when these guys saw Rio Hondo take down Charter Oak, who was the juggernaut, right? That's the team. I went to so many Charter Oak games as a kid. I lost so many classmates from Rio Hondo and the Gators in Care Youth League who went on to play at Charter Oak. And God bless them. I was cheering for them every step of the way. But that game, I will say it was the biggest non-championship game in Rio Hondo history. Now, the past few years, I've kept saying this. I think Santa Monica, biggest game in RHP history. Oh man, now we're playing Warren, biggest game in RHP history. Well, you know what's cool about this whole thing is I would argue at the time those were. But now we're in 2025. The Kares are coming off Division 9 and Division 7 championships, and man, it's a semifinal against I know they're not 2-time champs, but they may as well have been the Serna Lancers, one of the area's most consistent programs that has done it the right way. And I just can't say enough about their program and what they've done the past few years. And for Rio Hondo and La Serna to be playing each other in a semifinal to see who goes to the Division 5 championship game. I don't know, man. I don't know if it's the biggest game in Rio history. It might be the biggest non-championship game. The win over Warren last year was phenomenal. It was true. Like the David and Goliath thing to some of you is getting a little old. I understand, but I don't know. Some things never get old. And the Rio Hondo way of doing things and slaying giants and coming out and, doing it one more time when people think you can't. It's what motivates not just the players, the coaches, the family, everyone to get out to these games. So I'm a little fired up here on a Monday night for a game that's going to happen in a few days. You guys will be hearing this on Wednesday, but to help me calm down, to help me kind of focus and bring it in, reel it in a little bit. I have not one, but two outstanding guests for you guys tonight. And it just things kind of happen sometimes. They just happen, right? Organically. And it's hard work figuring out all this stuff sometimes, but it's a true honor. And we're going to have two guests on for two different reasons. The first guest we're going to have on tonight is Coach Austin Montoya from Schurr High School. He's returning to the podcast. Remember, he was here with us in the summer, getting us ready for the big week 0 matchup between Rio Hondo and the Schurr Spartans. And what a game that was, a 20-9 victory for your Kares. But the reason we're having Coach Montoya on, not only do we have tremendous respect for him and his program, and Rio opens against them next year in Montebello, so be ready for that one. But Coach Montoya led his Schurr Spartans the following week to take on the Serna Lancers. So Rio Hondo and Serna in back-to-back weeks to start the season. They also ended up playing Bonita at one point in the year, so a very tough schedule they played. We'll talk about their season a little bit. But Coach Montoya is coming on the show tonight to kind of give some analysis into Rio Hondo a little bit and about Serna, and to kind of give that. We've heard coaches come on before and recap playing Rio Hondo. Well, I know it was many weeks ago, but I thought it would be very fitting to have Coach Montoya on to fill us in on his perception of both teams, having played them. Both teams were victorious over him, by the way, so very gracious of him to come forward and to talk about those games. But I thought it'd be a unique perspective, right, which we always like having here on the show, and to hear I don't want Coach Montoya to tell us what we want to hear. I want him to tell us what we need to hear. And so I thought, he and I talked actually at the game on Friday when we were at Arroyo hanging out, and he said that he'd be more than happy to come on. So additionally on the show today, big show for the semifinals for sure. We're going to be joined by Azusa Pacific University football coach AJ Parnell, who was recently hired a few months ago. APU is currently not playing football for the NCAA, but they will next season, coming back from a hiatus of a couple years where they were playing a D2 ball. They're now going to be playing Division III football in the NCAA. Coach Parnell starting up the program. I want to hear about him a little bit, hear about maybe his interests in what's going on in high school football these days. And we got to be careful how we talk with Coach Parnell, everything above board about, we probably won't, I know we won't talk about any players individually because there's all kinds of policies and things we want to respect. So, but I thought he'd come on and talk about what he's looking forward to restarting the APU program. And, who could not love high school football at a time like this, right, during the postseason? So two great guests today. Again, two different reasons, and then we'll wrap things up. Since our show is primarily with Coach Montoya going to be about the Serna Lancers and breaking them down, that's why we'll have Coach Parnell on after that, talk briefly with him just for fun, and then we'll get to my explanation point and kind of maybe my final thoughts on the game. But I've rambled enough. I'm jacked up. Who's ready for a rumble? I think both teams are, and you're either ready for a rumble or you're gonna stumble, fumble, mumble, whatever you want to say regarding the big semifinal game this Friday night. You better come out for a street fight, because that's exactly what you're gonna get. Two really physical, really tough, really playoff proven football teams that are ready for a dogfight. I can promise you that. Obviously, where we're at here on the podcast, but do not sleep on Serna. This is one of the best football programs in the San Gabriel Valley and in Southern California. So I am beyond excited for this one. I know they are. I know our fans are. I think it's going to be a capacity crowd, honestly, at Covina District Field or wherever this game ends up being played, but cannot wait for it. Let's get you more ready for it as I now bring on our first of two great guests tonight, Coach Austin Montoya from the Schurr Spartans. Appreciate him coming on, giving us some analysis of your two opponents for the Division 5 semifinal this Friday night, Rio Hondo Prep and Serna. Here he is, head coach Austin Montoya. All right, coming back to the show is Schurr head coach Austin Montoya. We last talked to him in the month of May. He was doing a passing league thing with his team at a pizza parlor, and we released that episode in July. We obviously kicked off against each other back in August, and the Kares came out on top on that one. But Coach Montoya, he was at our game last week at Royal High School, taking in the festivities, and he and I chatted and said, hey, you know what? You might have some interesting perspective on both Serna and Rio Hondo Prep. Let's bring you back on. Coach Montoya, what's up, man? Good to see you.
Man, appreciate you having me on. It's unfortunate the way my season ended, but I'm a football junkie, so to be able to still talk football, to be able to still go to some Friday night games, it's the best time of the year. Obviously, I wish we were playing, but just to be able to talk shop and watch some games, obviously, it still kind of feeds that football junkie in me.
Yeah, no doubt, man. November, special time, and this is just like like last year, my Rams. They lost in the divisional round. They had McVay kind of at the Super Bowl on the table talking as an analyst. So that's kind of the thought here, Coach. We're bringing you on board to kind of give your thoughts. I want you to tell us tonight. Not what we want to hear, but what we need to hear about La Serna and Rio Hondo Prep. So, as always, Coach, speak freely and give us the insider about what it's like going against both of these teams. First off, how did your season go? I know as an unfortunate loss in the first round, but we haven't seen you in many weeks. So let's talk about your team and how you finished up.
Man, I thought we grew kind of week in and week out. We're pretty young. It's kind of a heavy senior class and a heavy sophomore class mixed in with a couple of freshmen that are playing some impact roles for us too. So we graduated a lot of seniors. We had some pretty decent senior leadership, but we had a lot of growing to do. From the underclassmen as well, because we relied on a lot of those guys in that sense. So I thought we grew week in, week out. I thought we, obviously played you guys tough. That was a dogfight. We played La Serna, obviously, and shot ourselves in the foot a bunch. And you can't do that against teams that, are that well coached. And, man, took care of business versus Village Christian and was in another dogfight. And luckily, didn't shoot ourselves in the foot enough to lose that game. And we ended up squeaking by Chino. Played Bonita 14-7. And, we were driving to kind of tie or take the lead in that game. And unfortunately, we threw an interception. But, man, we grew. Obviously, our league, we took care of business there. And we went up to, Santa Clarita and played a tough Saugus team. And Coach Jason Bourne, who's been doing it for 29 years, I think, or something like that as a head coach. And, I got to meet a wily veteran and got into a dogfight with them. Man, took it on the chin and self-evaluating, evaluating the program, getting back to work here. I've been at the office, since we've lost and started doing exit interviews with my players, started doing exit interviews with my coach, trying to, self-evaluate and figure out how I can be better, how I can push this program forward and, starting weight room plans, off-season plans and stuff like that. And just trying to figure out to be in your guys' position and Coach George and La Serna's position, in the years to come.
Well, it's never easy, right? It's unfortunate that most schools, most teams end up, not going all the way. There's only a handful of teams that do that. So for most schools have to turn in the helmets and do all those things. But never easy. Is it kind of weird thinking after, you're a week-to-week team and then all of a sudden you're like, boom, the season's over and your literal next game is against Rio Hondo Prep many, many months from now. 9 months, maybe?
Yeah, so I mean it's again surreal. I've been with these seniors for 4 years, so again, since I GA'd at the University of Incarnate Word, and I'm a proud alumni of that school. Cam Ward, #1 pick, UIW guy. But I came back, and these were the first kids that were my freshman class when I came back, and it's surreal. The season went by fast and stuff like that, and again, it's just back to the drawing board, and again, we'll start trying to figure out a way how to put a chain in the cog that is Rio Hondo Prep next year, but I'm excited and ready for the challenge. I think we got to learn how to play at this level, and this is why I schedule the preseason that I do, and we've kind of ramped up the competition level because again, this is the level of competition that we want to play at. I think our kids need to learn how to play at this competition. Again, we went from 12 to 6 in 1 year, and then we were in 7 again this year. So we've gone from multiple years of being a double-digit division team into back-to-back years of being single-digit team, upper in those higher divisions. And obviously we got bounced in 2 rough games, the same exact score versus Near, same exact score versus Saugus, which hurt obviously the same exact kind of a loss and heartbreak. But we got to figure out a way to play at this level. And I think, the preseason.
Well, we froze for a minute there. Coach, are you there?
wins.
Oh, he's back. Okay. You're back. You're back. Sorry, guys. We have had some technical issues here where we're
No.
freezing and pausing a little bit, but I think we're going to be okay. We're going to work through it, everybody. It's pouring rain here. I don't know if there's anything to do with it. Anyway, Coach Montoya, I will say, you hate, what's the phrase? Moral victories. You hate those things, right? But in looking back at the season, you had the tough non-league schedule. And then when you look at, for instance, Rio Hondo Prep, I'm looking at our schedule right now. When you consider you were the only team to keep Rio Hondo points at 20 or less. I mean, that really has to say something to you guys. Troy, just last week, they gave up 28 to us. The following week after we played you, Quartz Hill, we scored 28. Those are our other two lowest scoring games. But for you guys to allow us or, keep us at 20 points, I got to tell you that is definitely something to be proud of. And man, we hope we get a little bit more than that next year on you guys, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's all credit to my defensive coordinator, Coach Raul Sanchez. He is a savant. He is meticulous in his game planning, is meticulous in his film study. He holds that standard to the players, to his assistant coaches. I am an understudy of his. I'm a defensive guy, and my mentor is fortunate for me, still around, and I'm still able to kind of learn from him. So, obviously I'm the head coach, but I coach linebackers in his defense. And yeah, it's a credit to him. My players obviously play tough as nails and will run through a wall for us, which I love them for that. But his game planning is second to none. And I'm obviously a homer in that sense, but I really do think his name is up there with the best DCs in our area, along with Coach Mustaine, who we'll talk about in a little bit at Serna.
Oh yeah. His name is definitely known around these parts. If you hear any background noise, that's just Coach Montoya. He's outside in the storm. He's a big rain guy. He likes all this stuff out there. So you must have been loving it Friday night, Coach. I know you wanted to be playing, but watching Rio Hondo in the pouring rain at Arroyo High School. We're going to talk about the first two games of the year in a minute, but as far as recency bias goes, talk to me about what you saw last night with Rio Hondo taking it to Troy, and I don't know if that was surprising. Just your initial thoughts on that game.
Man, it's nice to have Noah back, huh?
Yeah. We were missing him in week 0 there, Coach. That unfortunate injury.
That guy is special. I think not to take away from Noah at all. He is very, very special. I think the culture and the execution level that Coach Carson and the rest of the staff have obviously make those holes. The line obviously make those holes, but the execution level is top tier, and that's what allows Noah to have those ridiculous games and those ridiculous performances. So Noah's special, but just the again execution level is always, whenever you watch a Rio Hondo Prep game, the discipline and the execution always jumps out at you. I think you guys have one penalty, a holding on a toss, I believe. No turnovers, super clean game, and it's how do you beat somebody that doesn't get penalties and doesn't turn the ball over?
Yeah. No, that's kind of the formula for sure. I mean, a few times in the playoffs, the previous years, we played perfect games. We were not exactly perfect, but we started so fast on Friday night against Troy, and before they blinked, it was, oh man, we're down 21-0. What happened? So very great getting off to a fast start. We didn't have that fast start the previous week at Thousand Oaks, but it's not always how you start, it's how you finish. So if you could now, Coach, let's go back to our game specifically with you guys. And I want to get to Lacerna as well, because that's the big reason you're here. A very hard fought game. We mentioned Penaneri, unfortunately got injured in that one. You guys are up 3-0 into the half. It's kind of an ugly, scrappy game. And then Rio Hondo pulls a rabbit out of their hat and, hits a touchdown pass, a long one of all things, and goes up at 6-3 at halftime. Ultimately won the game 20-9. But what do you remember about that game? Just the hype going into it, and just, I don't know, overall your team and Rio Hondo's performance.
I think as far as my team, we shot ourselves in the foot a lot. That was a game that had a lot of laundry on the field. And we didn't do ourselves any favors. Like I think I mentioned earlier, either in the Zoom or in conversation prior to, you can't have that many penalties and expect to beat a clean Rio Hondo Prep team. I think for me, the biggest play of the game for us was the snap over the head on the punt, and we lose contain, and the punter goes 20 yards or 30 yards to extend that drive, and you guys end up scoring on that drive. It's tough to beat Rio Hondo Prep by itself, but when you have to fight yourself and fight the refs and Rio Hondo Prep, that's a losing recipe. And again, I think we weren't disciplined enough to finish the game off. A lot of our youth showed, and the tight knit senior group that you guys have that has been developed, for these past couple of years, obviously executed at a high level and was a lot cleaner than us in that game. For prep, obviously, man, it speaks to the culture. You lose Noah Pinaneri, that's Superman, and that threw us off. We game planned for stuff that was specific to Noah, and you guys trying to get him the ball, and I'll butcher his name, Calogero Chico comes out of nowhere and has a monster game, and again, those teams usually quit or the morale goes down when Superman is taken off the field, but you guys rallied it and kind of responded. You guys kind of came together and again played for something, played meaningful football. But again, I think it was hard fought. I like to think that you guys had to earn all that stuff, and there was no quit. There was no quit in those boys. And again, they just executed. I had next man up. I think Maranatha game. It was a Guzman kid.
Was it Guzman? Maranatha. For what? For the
running back.
Oh, who was it?
Was it Guzman? There's another kid that had a monster running game. With him out, and again, it's not our game specifically, but there was just multiple games kind of with Noah out that someone stepped up, and that's again an amazing recipe. When Superman's gone, there's his sidekicks that step up and keep the ship afloat.
Yeah, it speaks to the depth really of this team, and Rio Hondo being a small school, typically we haven't had this kind of depth, but we got a great senior class and guys that have really stepped up. And I hate seeing Noah injured, but it was almost like one of the best things that could happen to the team because they were forced to unite, go forward, and be like, all right, we need to rally, and they did that for many, many weeks. And great to have him back fresh, and it got a lot of different guys to contribute too. So you know what that's all about too. So hard fought game, 20-9. I think it was very close all game. You guys scored late, we scored late. So I'm looking forward to next year's game. But I will say it was a great way to start the season for us. We needed that. I'm sure you guys as well. But now let's go into your second game, the Serna Lancers. I believe your home opener. You know what? You had just played a really hard-fought game against Rio Hondo Prep. Here comes La Serna. Talk to me about going into it and then kind of as the game unfolded for you guys.
Man, that's kind of a local game that I always want to play. I'm hopeful that we were able to kind of play it again next year. And shoot, again, with you and La Serna, I hope these are games that I get to play every year. And we end up kind of having a bit of rivalry with each other. And I hope that we show better performances, as I continue to grow as a coach and my program continues to grow. But these are teams that have established themselves, and they're teams that I'm trying to chase, teams that, as respectfully as possible that I want to knock off. And I want to be regarded how you guys are regarded. And I think that's a big compliment to Coach Carson and Coach George, are two coaches that I immensely respect. Their programs are two programs that I immensely respect, and I try and, steal from here and there to try and create a program in my own that kind of, gets rocking and rolling and puts ourselves in a position to hopefully succeed in the future. But, our game, again, it's a local game. A lot of our kids know each other. A lot of their kids and our kids played Pop Warner together. So it was, heated in that sense. We felt as though we were closer, in differential than we were in years past. And again, I think our youth showed, man. I think our youth showed, and it took a while for us to kind of grow and for us to figure out what to do offensively and execute offensively. we didn't do ourselves any favor. We had, two blown covers that directly resulted in 2 touchdowns, for their receiver who was a stud, number 0. And man, their defense, their defense is as real as it gets, man. Their defense is as real as it gets. Gave our offense, obviously shut us out. So gave our offense a ton of problems. And when our defense is, blowing coverage and giving them some points, it's hard for us to get in a defensive juggernaut battle when, we can't kind of be disciplined in that sense coverage wise. But again, I think it was 28-0, but I think, it was a grinded out game. It was 7-0 at half, and one of those blown coverages came with like 50 seconds left in the half. So, we're in a dogfight, we're ready to go in 0-0 at half. And, we blow coverage and they get a touchdown, get some momentum, and they come out and, I think our opening drive, we get a nice little run from Tyler Higashi for a touchdown, and it gets called back on a holding on the opposite side of the field, 20 yards away from one of our receivers. So it's kind of, a heartbreaker in that sense. We're trying to get to 7-7. We think we got some momentum. The play comes back. And again, we're young. We didn't necessarily know our identity offensively. And you can try and figure yourself out, in games versus the Rio Hondo Preps and the Sernas. You better know who you are, and you better have an established culture if you think you're going to, try and get in a heavyweight boxing match with these 2 heavyweight programs.
Yeah, definitely two very tough tests to start the year for you, but I know, we talked about it already, helped your team really, really develop. So thank you for that as far as kind of how your game went. Sounds like very similar, honestly. Low scoring game in the first half, couple mistakes that led to some the game getting, the score getting a little bigger than it was, but sounds eerily similar, I guess. And so that's why I want to talk a little bit more about Serna, Coach. I got a few of your notes here, and let's just talk about them defensively to start. This team is led by their defense. We saw it in their playoff games, a 7-0 win in the first round against Lakewood, a 10-7 win over Elisa Nagel last week in the quarterfinals. So if you could talk to me about their defensively and why that is a strength for them.
Their defensive line is special. It always has. I'm not sure who their defensive line coach is, but that dude must be a stud. Their defensive line is quick. They're not the biggest. They're gonna, move around. They're hard to block. You don't know where they're gonna be. You think you have a clean down block and they're in a one shade, and all of a sudden they disappear and they're in the backfield making a tackle for loss. So their defensive line for me is really what kind of makes the engine run for them defensively. Last year at Serna, we were in another tight game, 7-3 at half, and there's a play on film that's utterly amazing. Their defensive tackle who returns this year, I don't remember the number off the top of his head, but he gets tripped up or falls on the ground, gets up and chases the run down to the opposite hash, and that's just the effort and the intensity that they have on the D-line is no joke. And again, if you're going to stop them, you better be able to block their defensive line. They're quick and they get after it. They have no quit, just like you guys, and they're special in that sense. But I think again, that's. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, with this D line, is it most teams seems to be on a 4-4 cover 3? Do they blitz a lot, or do they not have to blitz a lot because their defensive line is so strong?
They mix it up, man. I think they're multiple. Coach Mustaine is again very highly regarded. I have a tremendous amount of respect. His defenses are always tough and gritty, and he schemes the heck out of games as well. They're multiple, man. They don't necessarily have to blitz every play, but they're going to keep you guessing. They'll line up in a 50, they'll line up in a 40. You'll have 3 down linemen, and have somebody walk down as a backer or however it is. They're gonna play games, and they're gonna keep you guessing and hope that you make a mistake and they end up in the backfield.
Yeah, and you're again, uniquely qualified for this because you guys, a pretty good running game like us, although you very different to styles. So it's interesting hearing how defensively teams approach. It seems like a lot of teams we play, they throw everyone in there and just load everyone either inside or kind of stack the edges, and we try to find the creases. So you're telling me with Coach Mustaine of the defense in Lacerna, he really does a good job of mixing it up and not really giving you any consistent looks.
Yeah, definitely. It's a guessing game in that sense offensively. For that, it's just you have to try and identify who's coming. When pressure's coming, and Danny Nunez is a kid that I know that plays linebacker for them, and he's their Mike, I believe, and he's a study, a transfer from Bishop Lamont, but he's a local kid. He played Montebello Indians with a lot of my kids as well, and he's a smart, savvy player as well, and that's kind of I think the guy that they're sending, and he's got a nose for the ball as well. But yeah, I think majority of teams, I'm sure you guys face it as well, are going to come out in a 50 to try and get that extra guy on the edge and stop the run. So I would assume,
Yep, freeze again. Maybe a little.
And try and stop it, but they're not just going to, and he's a good coach.
Oh yeah. Oh, no doubt. Let me see. So that was Nunez you mentioned. I think Xavier Nunez, is that who that was? 44?
Check.
Yeah, you're back. You're back. Test. You're good.
I don't know where I left off.
Oh, no, you're good. We heard most of that. You mentioned Nunez. Was that Xavier Nunez you said? Oh, we're frozen again. Let me hit pause, guys, so we get situated. All right, thanks for your patience, guys. A little bit of technical issues here. We're getting through it, but it's just like a football game, right? Peaks and valleys. Here we go. So, Coach Montoya, you were talking about, Danny Nunez, not Xavier. Danny Nunez, number 4 linebacker, probably their, most active player on defense.
Yeah, I would say, from the linebacker standpoint, I may be a homer because I'm a fan of the kid and I know the kid, but I would say that he's kind of their best linebacker, and he's kind of the more active guy. They'll send him, and he'll do a good job of reading the guards and stuff like that, and doing what linebackers do. But yeah, I was mentioning, I'm sure they'll come out in a 50 like most teams do, and try and have one more guy on the line to try and stuff the run. But like most coaches do, they're not going to give you the same look and just allow you to scheme and game plan. He's going to be, creative and give you guys multiple looks or I would assume, that he's going to give you guys multiple looks to keep you guys guessing.
Yeah, I would think you're going to try a few different things, see what sticks, okay, let's do more of that, seems to be the approach. When teams are kind of stubborn and just, this is what we do, and don't kind of make adjustments, I think that's what gets them in trouble, especially with Rio Hondo, such a unique offense, right? The timing and all that. So let's talk about the Lacerna offense. I think you mentioned earlier, number 2, Jordan Bonilla, kind of their very athletic guy. They want to get him the ball. He's listed as a running back, but I'm sure they do everything they can to get him the ball in space.
He's a stud, man. He's a stud. With all respect to everybody on their team, they got multiple kids that can play and that can go. I really think that's kind of the engine to their team. He was a quarterback last year. He battled Grady Long and he started some games, and it was a race to see who was going to start. And he's a Montebello Indian kid as well. And when I came back from GA, he was, one of the highly regarded kids. He would probably, if he stayed to quarterback and like, most kids in this generation transferred out because he didn't like, the situation that he was in. He'd probably start for 90% of the teams in the SGB at quarterback. He's a talented kid, but he's so talented. He's so talented that, he can play running back for them in 7-on-7. He was, one of their top receivers, in the 7-on-7 circuit, and defensively he flies around like a madman, with his hair on fire. He is a game changer in that sense. He's just a competitor, man. He's not, 6'5", he's not 250 pounds, he's nothing crazy, but he has an immense kind of brain and knowledge of the game, having played his whole life, having gone to the Montebello Indians, is a great Pop Warner program and ran by some great coaches that are knowledgeable. And he just has fight and will, similar to Noah. They want to play ball and they got no quit in them, and they're, again, great competitors.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Lacerna offensively, I think we heard some guys on Twitter talking about that today. It's kind of the concern over their offense. I know they only scored 7 in the first round, 10-7 last week. I kind of write that off almost because of the rain and everything. But I don't know. You look at their league, Santa Fe, Cal, Whittier, El Rancho, they're putting up 30, 35, 42 points. It doesn't seem to be an issue there. Why would you say maybe they've struggled offensively the past few points, at least to put up points? Is it? I did see they had like 5 turnovers last week. I mean, that obviously has something to do with it. But yeah, 7 points and 10 points the past 2 weeks.
I think, listening to Freddie and Aram earlier, I think the turnovers kind of directly, I'm sure, impacted the score in that sense. Versus Lakewood, again, I think they had a fumble and a turnover, interception, excuse me, when they were driving to score. So that's going to impact those scores in that sense. But, I think, again, for me, I'm not necessarily too sure. I would, assume that when you play teams of a high caliber, it's a little hard, especially knowing my offense in that general sense. But when you play Edison's, when you play Korean Lutherans, when you play Rio Hondo Preps, when you play, teams of those calibers, especially in primetime playoff football games, it's tough to come across points.
Yeah, points in the playoffs are generally tougher to come by. So those are just some things that sometimes numbers jump out at you, and you're like, that's kind of odd. But they seem like outliers to me. I think Lacerna can score, and Rio Hondo better be ready to tackle and play good defense like they've been doing. If you look at the Lacerna schedule, a loss 15-13 to Rancho Bernardo, who's generally a pretty good football program, a loss 28-23 to Northview, who was also in D5, good football program, tough early round loss for them in D5, and Korean Lutheran 38-14. That's a team that has really moved up to higher divisions and really one of the better teams out there in SoCal. So their 3 losses, Coach, are 2 very good teams, and for the most part, pretty close games.
Yeah, I mean, I think they play a brand of football that's going to keep it close. You don't necessarily see Lacerna get blown out. They're going to, run their offense to a T, similar to you guys, and they have some kind of wing T-ish principles that they're going to do and hold the clock and play tough defense. Teams that are successful in the playoffs, like everyone says, can run the ball and can play tough defense, and that's why I'm sure they've had success throughout these years in the past, playoff wise, is because of that. So I think the style and the brand of football that they play creates those tough, close games. When you run the ball and keep the ball away from other teams' offense, and you play stout defense, it kind of brings those games and those close results, especially with teams that you may not be able to, on paper play with.
How would you describe them offensively? We see a lot of spread looks in today's modern game. Are they pretty balanced? Do they maybe put it in the air? I don't know, 70-30 as far as what would you say their ratio is? And I don't know, what are some kind of the strengths offensively? They're getting knocked for their offense, but I don't know. It seems to me that there's some points and some yards there once they get going.
Multiple. I think, Coach George has done a great job to kind of modernize it a little bit and get into some spread formations and add some spread concepts to kind of balance it and keep teams honest. But I would believe, not knowing obviously for a fact, that I would believe, at heart, he loves his wing T principles and all that stuff, to kind of similar to you guys, make reads hard and keep people guessing. When you have crisscross and plays like that in the wing T concepts, it's a little hard when the ball's exchanging hands and you're getting pullers here, but the run's going that way. So I would believe that that's kind of in his heart of hearts what he loves offensively. But I think he's done a great job of kind of being open enough to expand the offense a little bit. And obviously he has Grady Long who can, throw the ball. When you have a 6'5" quarterback, it's kind of hard not to let him drop back in the pocket and sling the ball a little bit. But again, I think in the heart of hearts, he wants to be a tough physical, downhill run team with his wing team principles. But he also knows that he has athletes, and has the luxury of some athletes out there that can, go get the ball. So he'll line up, in personnel where, it's 4 wide, and he'll line up in a personnel where it's 3 backs and a tight end, or something like that. And so it's not necessarily something that you can just game for. Personnel is everything, personnel is everything, especially for us. We're up top trying to get numbers and trying to figure out what personnel is coming in order to kind of game plan properly and make sure we're, in the right defensive front and the right, secondary coverage in that sense, because you don't know if you have 3 backs or 4 wide.
Yeah, that's obviously a great point. And Coach George, with Coach George and Coach Carson, both of these guys, these teams are so well coached. They know each other as far as, I'm sure from the game film and everything. There's going to be something. Someone's got to, I would think. You're going to do what you do, but this late in the postseason, I mean, with these teams, you're really breaking each other down. I mean, I got to imagine. I don't have any information. I'm just breaking it down with you. I got to imagine each team, throws a wrinkle that maybe the other guy wasn't expecting on film or whatever. And then it's like, okay, now it's time to counter that move. So that's the chess match with both of these guys. You see kind of Coach George and Coach Carson kind of having to make those decisions and adjustments in a game like this?
I mean, you were there week 0. You guys got us on a reverse that kind of essentially put the nail in the coffin in that sense. I think it was a 1-score game until you guys hit us on that reverse. Serna has a quarterback at running back, so there's always the option of giving him the ball and him being able to throw it. So I think obviously it's something you want to pull out all the stops. There is no tomorrow, and I think it's silly if you don't have something prepared, to kind of throw a team off and kind of take advantage of them flowing one way, or them kind of getting stuck in a rut in the sense of just assuming ball's going here and it's a traditional run, it's a traditional pass, or however it is. You got to take advantage of that. I know Coach Carson is great at kind of, and him and his staff, are great at kind of, designing some type of trickeration and kind of getting something, in their back pocket in case they need to pull it out. And again, I think Coach George is similarly, especially it's a deadly weapon when you have a running back that, was this close to being your starting quarterback.
Yeah, that's really important to always keep in mind. And that's why I like kind of, for lack of a better term, like the diversity of our guys with as far as multiple running backs, multiple weapons. If you can, Noah's obviously our guy, but when you can get the ball to other people, I think it really makes the other team, makes them have to, pull their hair out a little bit. So yeah, you're going to put your best guys in the best positions in this game. But I don't know, Coach, I have a feeling that on one side of the sideline, one sideline or another, someone's going to make a play in this game that maybe hasn't made big headlines before, made a lot of them. We talked about Calodro Chico in our game with you coming out of nowhere. I think with all the headlines for Noah and Bonilla, I don't know. I just, this game has that feeling to me that as tight as these two teams are, something unexpected is going to happen. Someone's gonna rise out of nowhere.
You have 2 of the best staffs in the San Gabriel Valley, 2 of the best staffs, in my opinion, in CIF, obviously pound for pound with what they've done. And these guys are, again, some of the best coaches out there. They know what you have. They're going to game plan for what you have. So it has to be the unsung heroes, because Coach Mustaine is going to do his best job to shut down, Noah Pinaneri, and, Coach Carson and his defensive staff are going to do their best job of, shutting down Serna's offense. And it's going to have to be somebody that, comes out of nowhere and has a vital impact on this game. Because again, these staffs are so good that they're going to game plan for each other. They're going to, put their best foot forward in stopping what you guys have shown on tape. That is kind of your traditional way of earning points on both sides.
Yeah, and I want to ask you, respectfully here and fairly, like I'm not going to ask you which is a better team. I don't think that's a fair question to ask you. I want to ask you from the two games that were played. If I mean, I think we know this already, but just how close these are two good teams. I just want you to kind of from your perspective, just how close they are. You played them in back-to-back weeks. Just how similar, maybe in the different styles and this and that, but just how close these two teams are, skill wise, coaching wise, execution wise. It's a pretty thin margin in this game, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. It's again, two staffs that are tremendous, two staffs that are highly regarded and have had success. I think Aram and Fred and their little thing said, I think Rio Hondo Prep is like 12-2 in the playoffs in the past couple of years, and Lacerna's like 11-1 or something like that.
Yeah.
Again, you don't have the success that you guys have sustained in the playoffs without high level coaching. Of course, you need players. Of course, you need the Jimmys and the Joes and the Joe, them to execute. And you guys have both had great players throughout this process. But there's a lot of teams that have great players that don't go on the runs that you guys have. So the coaches, again, are very, very high level. And because of that, because of the cultures that you guys have established, and because of the discipline and the execution levels that you guys kind of play with, it's so difficult for me again. And I don't know if this is the next question coming up or however it is. The game's decided by who makes mistakes. You guys, a lot of you guys play clean. For me, the looking at the past two games, and I understand the rain, but I think Lacerna turned the ball over 4 or 5 times last week versus Lakewood. They turned the ball over 2 times. I think Rio Hondo Prep again had 1 penalty last week and didn't turn the ball over. I think Thousand Oaks, I don't believe you guys turned the ball over. Lacerna can't afford to turn the ball over, and you cannot turn the ball over against Rio Hondo Prep in that sense.
Yeah.
You guys obviously can't go away from what you guys are doing and start to get in an ugly match and turn the ball over yourselves. Obviously, you guys have been clean. Knock on wood. Hopefully, I'm not jinxing anybody.
Yeah.
Well,
to your point, I mean, yeah, I think obviously that's kind of football 101. Whoever makes the least mistakes, is turnovers and penalties, a big one. Like Thousand Oaks comes to mind. We turned the ball over on a kickoff. We ended up getting behind 2 scores, and typically that's not good news for us. We kind of are match, score for score guy, kind of the guys that take advantage of those things ourselves. So we rallied. We were able to battle through it, but that's kind of the recipe. What I'm concerned about is I see a team in Lacerna. If you turn the ball over 5 times in a football game and you still come out on top, that's a little scary in a sense that, wow, that means that game could not maybe have been a whole lot different story had you hold on to the ball a little bit.
with all respect to their last opponent, I'm not sure that their offense is kind of the well-oiled machine that Rio Hondo Prep is. Again, and that's the only reason why I bring that up. I don't think you can give Coach Carson and Noah Pinaneri extra added possessions and expect to win the game. Like you said, it's kind of football 101, and it's silly, and it's, anybody could say that. I'm the expert. Why am I saying something that any average Joe can say? But the way both of you guys play, both of you guys aren't going to have a tremendous amount of penalties. Both of you guys are going to execute at a high level. You guys are going to understand the blocking scheme. You guys are going to tackle. All you guys, both of you guys are going to do that. You just can't put the ball on the floor, and you can't, put the ball in the other kid's hands. So as simple as the analysis is, for me, because of how close these two teams are, that really is what I see as a dictation. To be honest, I think it could come down to a PAT block. I think in our game, we blocked one of your PATs. You guys blocked one of ours. I've seen kind of Lacerna in some senses have some of that, and this could be a game that's 21-20, and one of those unsung heroes that we were talking about could be somebody coming off the edge and getting a block PAT.
Yeah, they had. I saw in your game some highlights, not to bring up bad stuff, but there was a special teams for either on a punt or a fake field goal or something, or maybe that was
a
Lakewood.
field goal.
Field goal, right? Yeah.
It was a field goal, bad snap, and they're right there in our face. You got no time to bobble it and put it down. You better get a clean snap and get that ball down.
There is no room for error against either of these teams. I think that is the moral of the story. Well, Coach Montoya, before I let you go, I just, we talked a lot about this game. Again, speak freely if you don't agree with this, but I feel I'm trying to take my Rio hat off here and be unbiased, but I think this is honestly one of the biggest playoff games in the San Gabriel Valley. There's been some great ones in the past, but when you take into account the drama, the back-to-back championship and championship game appearances, Division 4, Division 9, 7, 5, the state public versus private, I don't know. I think this game is a way bigger bigger than people realize, way bigger than just who goes to the Division 5 finals.
My goodness, this is, again, me and Coach Carson and me and yourself were kind of talking about this. Week 1 of the playoffs. And again, I know you guys were steadily focused on Thousand Oaks. And, I playfully text both you and Coach Carson, like, hey, what a dream would this matchup be? Man, it is here. This is, as a coach, as a football fan, as a San Gabriel Valley football fan, this is a dream, man. It's a technical chess match. And two of, again, coaches that I have a tremendous amount of respect for, 2 programs, 2 staff, 2 sets of players that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. And man, I can't wait for Friday night. It's going to be a blast, and it's going to be, again, a beautiful, it's almost like I'm a big boxing or a big UFC fan. And it's almost like, people are always hooting and hollering about in UFC, like UFC championship match that goes to grappling, it's wrestling and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is an amazing match. It's all the nuances and all the technicality. It's not going to be a knockout punch. No one's going to come in there and Buster Douglas this and just punch somebody in the mouth and they're going to drop. This is going to be a high level grappling match, and you got a pretty high level grappler on your team. So you guys may have a little slight edge in that sense.
That is true. We love Noah Pedineri's MMA. The Chainsaw is his fight nickname, which I think is just perfect for the football field. And finally, I mean, are we going to have? Is this a hot ticket on Friday night with the SGV as far as other coaches and other fan bases? What have you heard any rumblings about people coming out for this one?
I have about I don't know how I'm going to fit them in my car, but I have about like 10 kids that are asking me to give them rides to the game. Again, this is a hot ticket. I better buy my tickets now that we bring that up. But man, this is, again, I love my community. I love my kids. I'm a big supporter of, everyone in our community. And, I talk to everybody. I talk to coaches, that are not in my program. I talk to kids that are not in my program that I've seen grown up play, a Pop Warner or around it. And this is the talk of the town, man. This is, again, a program that, we're constantly hearing it in the spaces, how high their ceiling is. And they keep blowing the roof off in another program that's kind of been the status quo for success in the San Gabriel Valley in these couple recent years. And it's again, who's gonna come out here and take this thing? It's kind of just the excitement and the bubbling of the animosity for this game that happened Friday night. It's kind of hard to put together for words, but this is box office.
Oh yeah. We got ourselves a great one on Friday, and thank you to Coach Austin Montoya for helping us get ready for this one. Talk about our earlier matchups, and for what it's worth, Coach, I hope our next game is not against you guys, but if it is, we'll be counting down to August and looking forward to that one real soon.
Yes, sir. If I may, before we get out of here, I just want to speak kind of to the culture of you guys. Friday night, obviously, I went there with kind of no assumption to be on the field or kind of use my name or my position or any relationship that I had with you. And I'm walking across the track to get to your guys' stands to be over there on the home side. And somebody at the gate, I was just kind of looking for you to say hi. And someone at the gate was like, "Who are you looking for?" I told him, Matt. I was like, "Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, go look for him." And then Edwin, the vice principal, spots me right away and, shakes my hand, gives me a hug, had some small talk with me. He's searching around middle of the game. You guys are driving to score and he's searching around to try and connect me with you. It's just, again, welcoming. Obviously, I don't coach for Rio Hondo Prep. I don't have any affiliation with Rio Hondo Prep, but the welcomeness that I felt, and just the love or second to none. And again, it goes to the culture of the school and the atmosphere of the school. Obviously, I speak so much about your guys' program and our respect for your program, but the respect for the whole staff and the whole kind of support staff, the whole everything that encompasses Rio Hondo Prep. It was awesome to kind of be around, experience it, and see that. So hopefully I'm there with you this Friday.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That is, there's a lot of things bigger than football over there, and that means the world to us that we're doing those things, because it is a ministry in a sense for all of us. So thanks, Coach Montoya. I'll see you Friday night. As of now, it looks like Covina District Field, but I think we're for those letters on your hat there, I think we're in for a war on Friday night.
Yes, sir. I'm excited for it.
Thanks for coming on again. We'll see you soon.
Yes, sir.
Well, can't thank Coach Austin Montoya enough for his insight into both Rio Hondo Prep as well as La Serna, his opponents the first 2 weeks of the season. Gave us some good, good, not intel necessarily, just a good breakdown really of both teams. Gave us some praise, as well as La Serna. And of course, getting a chance to talk about his fine football team, the Schurr Spartans, who Rio Hondo will open the 2026 season with on the road in August next year, week 0. There'll be a lot of hype around that one, especially after the way this last year's game went. So we look forward to competing against the Schurr Spartans and Coach Montoya for next year, and hopefully beyond that. I think him and Coach Carson have a great relationship, and I think Coach Carson really appreciates just how Schurr plays hard, how hard Schurr plays. And I know, when we get worked up in games, when there's aggression out there on the field and all this and that, but I think true football coaches really appreciate when another team is playing as hard as they do, as hard as possible. Really, that's a tribute to their coach, to the other coach across the way. And so it's fun to compete against those guys. So wish him nothing but the best going forward. Thank you for that insight into both programs. We look forward to a great football game on Friday night, and look forward to chatting with our good friend, Coach Austin Montoya, there on the sideline as well. Be sure to keep that friendly spirit going, Rio Hondo. Again, when we have guests out there, it's nice to hear for that outside perspective, really, about how we carry ourselves and how we treat people, because I know that is something that is very important to us and a tradition we want to keep going. So Rio Hondo Prep, if people can't describe us specifically, I want it to just be, man, those people are different. That's a different, that's what cares are, right? That's what cares are. Competitive between the lines, and very gracious. And again, I say it at the end of every show, gracious and humble and all those things. So anyway, Coach Montoya, an absolute pleasure chatting with you once again. Great insight into two great football teams coming up on this Friday night for the Division 5 semifinal. All right, as promised, our second guest today will be a college football coach, Coach A.J. Parnell, the recently hired head football coach for the Azusa Pacific University Cougars. He was hired back in June when APU kind of made the decision, we're going to go back to playing tackle football, or football, I should say, at the college level. The program kind of dispersed, or however you want to phrase it, a few years ago. And Coach Parnell was hired in June, has the full year this year, which is kind of odd being a football coach and not being, having a team out on the field until the fall of 2026. So back on June 6th, Coach Parnell was tasked with leading the revival of the Cougar program after a small hiatus. And in the past, APU football, proud tradition, right? Christian Okoye, the Nigerian Nightmare, of course, and most notable alum who played in the NFL for the Chiefs for quite some time, as well as, they played NAIA football for quite some time, and eventually ended up when APU made the move a few years ago. Actually, I was still umpiring baseball at the time, so it was kind of a big deal when APU went from NAIA to NCAA Division II in all sports, and that included their football program. They played in the I think it was the GNAC, the Great Northwest Athletic Conference. And the one thing about being in D2 for football is there's not a ton of D2 teams out in these parts, out on the West Coast. So there was a lot of travel involved. APU suspended or canceled their football program a few years back, and we'll go into all that with Coach Parnell. But it's an exciting time for San Gabriel Valley, for Southern California to have another college football program back, right? I happen to know quite a few APU alums, some people that have worked for Azusa Pacific as well. You get a lot of Rio Hondo grads going over there, actually, when you think about it. But a great university. I enjoyed umpiring baseball games at APU because it was 3 miles from my house. And when you travel all over the country and the state, umpiring baseball, it was nice having quote home games. So I umpired my one and only regional at Azusa Pacific. So special place for me. I never went there. I don't think any family members. No, none of us went there. But the APU Cougars are a proud athletic tradition here in Southern California, right on the border there of Azusa, Glendora. On my, I was a Citrus guy, so I went there for a couple years before Cal State Fullerton. But Coach AJ Parnell coming on the show today. He's obviously a fan of high school football. And I wouldn't say a fan really, but just he has interest right in high school as you're trying to build a program himself. So what we're going to hear from him specifically about, I think it's just him restarting the program, kind of having a quiet fall, if you will, not having games to coach. So what goes into that, and just kind of the excitement for the campus and the community at Azusa Pacific University. And again, we can't go into too much of maybe his day-to-day operations and things, but he was gracious enough to chat with me, and when we started talking, he agreed to come on the show, and we again have an understanding of what can and can't be said just as far as college football and high school football goes. So if you're like, hey, how come you're not asking this or that? There's reasons why for everything. So we want to keep everything how it's supposed to be. So I just wanted to let everyone be aware of that. But yeah, college coaches do get out and about in whether it's the summer, the spring, the fall. They do get out and about a lot. We've seen Coach Parnell at a few local games, we'll say. And he just, you take interest as to who's there. I know we've had other college coaches, in attendance at our games. So when you got great players like Ryan McCullough, Noah Pananeri, some of the other guys on this team, Nathaniel Shine, you got a great group of guys, on the roster, or not just our school, by the way. You got whenever eyes are on Rio Hondo Prep, I think it's a great thing, whether it's media, college coaches, people from out of the state, people watching online. I think it makes the program a bigger deal. Well, not a bigger deal than it is, because Rio Hondo is a big deal now. For those that maybe are kind of thinking back to the 6-man, 8-man days, it's like, no. Rio Hondo Prep football has arrived. I will never forget this. I was in just before I bring Coach Parnell on, I was in Omaha, Nebraska. Me and Todd Carson. We're out at the College World Series, and it's 2008. It was like a graduation gift for me. After I had kind of, that was later. But anyway, graduation gift, and so he and I went. We were college baseball junkies, love watching the games, and we saw on the Jumbotron. It was the year Fresno State won the national championship, and in the College World Series, it just came out of nowhere. The Bulldogs, the Wonder Dogs, as they called them. And so in one of the championships, it was like the Final Four, if you will, they're playing North Carolina, and they showed on the Jumbotron, Rich Hill, the Fresno State football coach. At the time, legendary Rich Hill, he built the Fresno State program, or really built that up to a big-time powerhouse. And so I remember Todd and I were talking. He's like, you need to go say hello to Rich Hill. I don't know how this came up, but, me always being a shy guy, it's not really my thing. But he's like, we spotted him in the crowd. He's like, man, go say hello to Coach Hill. And I'm like, okay. So I went over there, and I just leaned down, and in between innings, I said, Coach Hill, how you doing? It's a tremendous honor to meet you. I love your program. And, it's great. It's great. This is, again, 2008. I said, it's an honor to meet you. I love what you do with your football program. And he's just like, hey, where are you from? I said, oh, Coach, I'm at a small private school out in LA. It's LA County, Rio Hondo Prep, and he just immediately looked at me, and he went, that's in the Pasadena area, isn't it? And I was like, whoa, Coach Rich Hill knows the Rio Hondo Prep program. And at the time, Landon Goodwill had just gone through and everything. So I'm sure a bunch of college coaches knew about the Kares and this and that. But yeah, that always stuck with me. It's like, you never know who knows about the Rio Hondo program. And I've tried hard to put my time and effort into this thing, and to help the program grow, but also at the same time, just stating the obvious. Hey, here's who we are. Here's what we stand for. And it's some pretty good kids, families, and football players as well. So it's cool to hear about how well known Rio Hondo is around Southern California, and the country and even the world in some cases. So make no mistake about it. You wear these hats, you wear these colors proudly. Rio Hondo alumni. I think it's, especially the past few years, it's been a little easier to do those things. So anyway, enough from that. We've talked about Serna with Coach Montoya. Let's talk a little bit about APU football upcoming with Coach AJ Parnell. Don't let his great smile fool you. I'm sure he's an assassin. Got all kinds of great plays to dial up. He came to APU from Winona State as the quarterback and running backs coach. So I want to hear from him about the hiring process, how that all went down, and just his excitement for bringing back a college football program here to the San Gabriel Valley. I think it's really, really cool. And with us playing Serna, two very great teams in the San Gabriel Valley, I thought, you know what? Let's bring on Coach Parnell and hear about APU a little bit, just to kind of mix things up too here on the pregame show. So without further ado, any more delays for me, it's my honor and privilege to bring on the recently hired head football coach of Azusa Pacific University, Coach AJ Parnell. All right, it is now my privilege to introduce to you guys Coach AJ Parnell, the head football coach at Azusa Pacific University, who was hired back in June. He doesn't have a team to coach yet here in 2025, but the Cougars will be back on the gridiron in the fall of 2026. Coach Parnell, hello, sir, and welcome to the Charge to Keep podcast.
Yeah, it's awesome to be with you, Matt. Again, just so much respect for what you do and this podcast and what it represents. So super, super honored to be here.
Yeah, Coach, I met you last Friday at the Rio, the quarterfinal game between Rio and Troy. A little rainy, but nice shaking hands and meeting each other. I know bad weather. You were just in Minnesota, for your last stop at Winona State. I don't know, bad weather and playoff football. It may not be the most pleasant thing, but it's still got to get your juices going, right?
Yeah, it totally does. Well, and that weather reminded me of my childhood. I grew up in the Seattle area, so rainy weather and football in the fall is very much kind of just part of, I would say, who I am. But I was not expecting it in Southern California, so it definitely took me back a little bit. But it didn't hurt though. Rio and Troy both ran the ball pretty well, so that game got over pretty fast just by the nature of their offenses and what they were trying to do. So.
Yeah, no doubt. Happy to have a fast one out there. No doubt. I think everyone was happy to get warm after that. Now, Coach, you do have some ties to Southern California. If you could tell us, you or your family, right, is from these parts?
Yeah. I'm kind of a West Coast guy. So I was born in Portland, but I lived here for about 3 years. My mom's from Arcadia. All of my aunts and uncles kind of live along the 210 out here in Southern California for the most part. Lots of cousins here. I had cousins that went to Azusa Pacific, and my older brother was at Azusa Pacific for a while. So definitely Southern California ties, and loved coming down here as a kid. My grandma's house was in Arcadia. Just a lot of fond memories of visiting down here and spending lots of time in the area. I was raised though in the Seattle area, Kirkland, Washington to be exact. So most people know it from the Costco, Kirkland signature. So that's my hometown. So.
I'm a big fan. Go Kirkland. Yes, absolutely. That's all I buy. Well, that is really, really cool. Yeah, to know these parts, being Arcadia, have some ties to Arcadia specifically. With us being there. And I know you're California coach, Southern California. You said the 210, like the 210 freeway. That's how we talk out here.
Yeah, I'm learning quick. One of my best friends went to Azusa Pacific, and he's been down here kind of ever since. And when he started saying that, I was like, what do you don't need to put the in front of it. But then now I'm realizing being here with the amount of freeways that cross and the amount of things that happen, you definitely do need to discern which one's which. So I can understand it completely now.
Well, Coach, we'll talk about the APU hire, but let's go back, to kind of the beginning of your coaching journey and how in the world you ended up the head coach of Azusa Pacific University here for the fall of 2026. But yeah, where did you get your start? And talk to me, just kind of the timeline to get here.
Yeah, so I played my high school football in Washington, graduated from there, and then I went and played college football at Bethel University. It's a private Christian D3 school in the Twin Cities. Fell in love with my wife there, came back to Seattle and kind of had my eyes and heart. My wife and I just set on being a high school head coach. So that's where we started. I was a middle school teacher and I coached at my old alma mater. Amazing opportunity to be back there and kind of give back to my community and be part of that community at Juanita High School. Was there for 6 years, and then moved in to be a head coach at our crosstown rival, if you could take it, Lake Washington High School. Yeah, I know. It was the opportunity in front of me, and so it was where we led. But again, tremendous community there in Kirkland. Lake Washington High School just brought me in with open arms, and we absolutely loved it there. We were there for 11 years. Our sons were born there, and that's kind of what we thought we were going to do. But then something started kind of prompting our hearts of like, okay, is this where we're going to be for a long time? And then I got a call from my old head coach who had been at Bethel for, at the end of it, was 35 total years at Bethel. And so when he called me and said, hey, take a look at this opportunity, it was like, okay, college football. We never really thought of that. So we went back to Bethel. I played quarterback. My first college job, I was a defensive line coach and special teams coordinator. So, honestly, it was exactly what I needed to learn the game in a different lens, to really challenge myself in a unique way. And I just had tremendous people pouring into me through that whole time. Even as a high school coach into my college coaching career, just amazing mentors. But 7 years at Bethel, I was the D-line coach, special teams coordinator, and then finished the last 3 as an offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach before I transitioned to Winona State, a Division II school about 2 hours southeast of the Twin Cities there. And again, tremendous mentor there, Brian Bergstrom, who's now at South Dakota State. But had 1 year there, and then this opportunity opened up kind of out of nowhere, honestly, for us. We kind of had thought we would be staying in the Midwest just because of the nature of the jobs that I had been in and a lot of the people that I had been connecting with. And so when the Azusa Pacific job opened up, I had always known of this community, always known of this area, and the opportunity just felt like, man, this is amazing. Well, God opened some doors, some conversations started happening, and it's one of those things that, when you start to interview or go through a process like that, you start to really lean in and be like, okay, what's going on here? This could be real. And I just felt such an alignment with the university, and what they're about. I already knew that, but just who they are and what they want to be. And, my journey of the 20 years prior of kind of my professional career really felt aligned for, where we're headed right now. So that's the cool part for me, is I feel like I can fully be myself. And not that I wasn't prior to, but just walking into a new job, you really want to know, like, can I bring all of who I am into that opportunity? And so that's what's been, I would say, super exciting for myself and my family to be part of this community. So.
Wow. That's quite a story. And before I kind of continue, that just hit me. Washington guy, Seattle guy. I'm a Seahawks fan. Is that safe to say? Fair to say?
I'm all in on the 12s. Yeah. So we had a rough night against the Rams yesterday.
Hey.
So I know people will hang that on me, but I love the Seahawks. Grew up loving all the Seattle sports, really, and the Huskies. Yeah. So it's really fortunate to grow up in that corner of the country. I loved it. Loved my time up there with my family.
Nice. Well, big Rams fan here, and I got to tell you, Coach, I have a feeling I have a feeling that the Hawks and Rams are going to be playing a third time this year, if you know what I mean. So
there's a good chance.
Very good chance. Two good teams there. Excited about that. The Mariners so close to the World Series. Oh my goodness, what a heartbreak that was.
I know. Well, we were sitting here going, wow, we just moved to LA and they might be playing here. We kind of, my sons, I have 2 boys who are 10 and 12. And so that was a tough night when we lost the Blue Jays, because it was definitely like they knew they were going to have to go to school the next day and kind of, live that out. But I was proud of my 12-year-old son. He threw on his Julio Rodriguez shirt and marched into school. So they threw in winter. We're true to it. So that was cool.
That's fantastic. Loyal fan there. Love that stuff. I want to ask you about the hiring process, because you hadn't been except other than high school stuff, maybe, to how does we see this in like Division I. Obviously, that's all we really know is coaching changes and hires. And how exactly did that work for you being an assistant coach at Winona State? You hear the job opens up, and because it's D3 or whatever, is it just you apply? Do they seek out? Do they have their list of candidates? How does that work at that level?
It's a little bit of a blend. I mean, honestly, high school is no different, but there's a blend, connections, who you might know. And so I was fortunate. My athletic director at Bethel really was an advocate for me in that process. One among many. Like I said, I've just got a tremendous group of people that have really lifted me up through my process and my journey as a coach. But, that was the first connecting point. And then I would say, can go through the first stages of an interview where it's turning in your, applying online or resume, or then now interfacing with a panel. I mean, I think they're trying to feel you out as much as you are them to see if there's alignment. Because especially with, I mean, a football job, head coaching job, you want to make sure, man, do I align with this place? It's not like I'm just trying to get a job. I want to make sure that we can have success and that what I'm going to bring to it is going to be something that they're going to be excited about because I think that's an important aspect of this. And for me and my family to move across the country and make a significant decision like that, there definitely was as much me interviewing, making sure there was good connection on those things. So, but yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is they want to know, who is this person? They want to have some reference of who you are and what you've done. And so the one thing that was unique though through this process, there was just a lot of things like, oh wow, I didn't realize we knew these people or they knew me or just some of those things that happen that you can't really orchestrate. And that's again what probably made me lean in even more to the opportunity was like I was like, gosh, this stuff is like it's eerie how it's all lining up in terms of just the alignment of who I am and what I want to be about and what APU is looking for. It just felt like it was just so matched well.
Yeah, it sure sounds like it. Match made in heaven. As some would say there. Excuse me. Athletic director Gary Pine, who's been around a while with APU. His on your bio here, he said, Coach Parnell understands what it means to lead in a Christ-centered environment and is passionate about mentoring student athletes to become the very best versions of themselves spiritually, academically, and athletically. In taking this new job, this new challenge, how important was the faith aspect? You've coached at public schools, of course, but how important was that part of this decision process to coach somewhere where Christ would be at the forefront of your program?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the beauty of it is public or private, I was always going to live my faith out. It's just how maybe verbal I can be about it. And so I've always tried to walk the same and have integrity in who I am and what my faith informs me and how Jesus is informing my daily steps. So, but to be able to do it in maybe a more outward expression, I think is pretty unique and exciting. My time at Bethel University, Bethel is very similar to APU. And that really formed a lot of, I believe, who I am now, especially as a coach. My head coach there, Steve Johnson, was tremendous mentor to me. Again, our athletic director. I mean, just tremendous people that poured into me. But there's no doubt that my faith in Jesus informs my steps as a coach. Like it's 100%. In our program, I want guys to have their lives changed by Jesus. I mean, I just believe that's the core aspect of APU. This community is all about that they can hopefully come to know Jesus and then let him inform their steps from there and that he becomes the Lord of their life. So in our program, it's definitely reflected in, I would say, maybe our roadmap of how we want to be and how we want to operate. And I can't help but I think the beauty of it, back to kind of your question, is I don't have to try to separate anything out. I really can just be fully who I am, and that's a unique opportunity, and not everyone maybe has that fully. And so I think that's an exciting moment for me just to be able to continue to share my faith, share who I am. We had a player Bible study this morning. It's funny you said our team we're building. We got 3 guys on our roster right now here on campus lifting, getting after it. The first group to reestablish APU football from the 2019 team. And we were having a Bible study this morning. It's just so cool to be able to walk with these guys with where they are, and each one of them comes with something they have trying to figure out who God's created them to be and how they can be the best version of that. So it's a fun journey to be on. And I'm a firm believer that when guys' hearts are full, man, they can play amazing football. When they really can feel like, man, I'm being cared for and challenged, they can go play the game the way it's supposed to be in a physical manner. So I get excited. I'm already fired up about finally seeing that, when we get to start playing football. I've done a lot of talking, recruiting and trying to get stuff going to get to the spot where we're actually playing again is super exciting for me.
Well, I got to tell you, you're preaching to the choir. It sounds very eerily familiar to some some football I know out there. So that's really cool to hear. I want to ask you about the challenge that you're hired in June of 2025, and they say, hey, we're not going to play this year, but you got to wait a whole year. You and I spoke briefly how weird it is in the fall not having games to prepare for. So
Yeah.
has it been a challenge? You got a full year and a half to rebuild this thing. And what did they tell? I mean, tying it all in, kind of the football program went away in 2019, I believe, and they were D2 at the time. When I heard the announcement, APU's football's coming back. It's not like it's a huge draw attendance or anything, but it's a big deal in these parts. And even though it is D3, I think it's a wonderful thing that APU is back. So if you could tie all that together and kind of, you know what I'm trying to say, APU coming back and having a year and a half really to prepare for it.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing is, we are standing on the shoulders of a tremendous, amazing legacy here. I mean, I know that flat out. The players and coaches that have come before me and the rest of our staff and our players, I mean, we literally are standing on their shoulders because the opportunity, like when I go to a school, there is way more recognition. Like we are not starting a new program. I mean, I think that's something I knew from the jump, and I felt that way more. We are reestablishing what it already was. And that's because of all the stuff that was done prior to me. So when I go to these schools and places, Azusa Pacific, if there's not an alum on their staff, if there's not
Yeah.
somebody who has had some touch point with the university, it is a well-respected university and well-respected program. And it's not because of me. It's because of the people in front of me. So I know that, and we get to launch from a unique spot. We're not a new program. Yes, we got to buy new gear and stuff like that, but we are not new. We are well known, and it's been paved by people in front of us. So that's for me as we bring guys in. That's the story I've been really hammering with our recruits. Like you get the opportunity to be part of something that has been special for a long time, and yeah, we get a cool opportunity to like reestablish that. That's unique. But just trust me, you didn't do all this, and I didn't do all this, and we're standing on the shoulders of people in front of us that left a tremendous legacy for us. So that's been the part that I probably have soaked up the most is reconnecting with alumni, reconnecting with former coaches, just the amazing men that have come through this program. What a tremendous opportunity to try and represent them and what they did and what this program has meant to so many. That to me is the opportunity that I get excited about. So, the year and a half runway, we do have something that is the secret sauce because of that legacy. So that's helping in recruiting. That's helping. We have something that I think people want. We talk very just boldly about our faith aspect at APU. And so recruits are, I don't know if I want that, or yeah, man, that's me. And that's kind of what, for me, our huge niche. Like we're looking for tough players who want to grow in their faith and grow as men. Does that sound like you? That's usually my first question I ask any recruit and even our coaching staff. I mean, when I got to our coaches, the men that we've hired, it's the same question because it's the same community that we want to try to build. It's not, any different. I don't want our coaches to think they have different rules or sets than what we're going to ask our players. And so I think there's just a tremendous opportunity because of that legacy, because of the who we are, that it is unique in the sense that we want to blend faith and football, and I think you can do those really, really well. And that you can be a really tough football team that really loves and cares about each other. And I think that's a cool opportunity to be a part of. So to me, tying into legacy is the main thing. This year and a half runway, I told the administration, hey, I'm hired in June. I'm not trying to make a big push for guys to show up here in August. We have 3 guys. Our big push was, how many guys can we get at mid-year to transfer that fit us, and then how many high school players do we especially in the San Gabriel Valley and in Southern California is a main focus right off the jump. That fit us, and then again, big thing for me was fit. I didn't want to just bring in any guy, just field a football team. I was like, let's bring in the right guys and not worry about numbers, bring in the right people that want this community, not just the football side. They want the high academics. They want to grow in their faith. Because to me, it's a developmental growth program. So if we're just trying to bring guys in, I think we lose the real like piece of this program that was so loud and clear to me when I started talking to the alums. That was what they loved. They had an amazing football experience, but it was transformational in their lives. And so to not be that same thing to me felt that's not we're not going to go there. We're really
Yeah.
reestablishing what this place always has been. So
Yeah, the tradition speaks for itself, and I just find it, in California, there's a ton of JCs, right? There's a not too many 4 years play football, except the SCIAC, of course. There's not really a D2 ball here. There's Division One AA or CS, whatever they call it. But it's just, I don't know. I live 3 miles from APU. I just know that I've been over there on campus for a lot of different sporting events. It's a better vibe for the school when you got a football program. It's like, all right, it just means more, right? And APU is wonderful, God first everywhere, and you really do see it. I think in the students and the alumni and this and that. I happen to know a lot of alumni from APU. Let's see, Adam Bartholomew, is he still working with the athletic? Oh, or is it Aaron? Aaron Bartholomew, excuse me.
so both Adam and Aaron both had worked here at one point. So actually you were correct
Yeah,
on both, but Aaron just retired. So he's
I thought so.
yeah, he moved on. Right, literally, like I think I might have had like a day or two with him. Like I got
Yeah.
hired and he retired, so we were kind of laughing as so. But yeah, again, he's the guy they talk about here too. There's so many long-standing employees here
Yeah.
that stayed here for a long period of time, and it's because of the fabric of the place. I think that draws people to want to be part of this community. So.
Yeah, no doubt. And Aaron was a guy, who always worked with athletics. He always, showed us to our dressing room when we were umpires and baseball games. He's been there forever. But I always joked with him. I said, your brother Adam. This is taking me back. This shows you the impact people can have on you, Coach. I was a little elementary school kid at Foothill Christian. Adam Bartholomew, Coach B, Coach B, we used to call him, was the PE teacher. And I was in second, third, and fourth grade, and I just remember those were the best times out on the playground with Coach B. So it's just funny how small the world can be at times with your connections, AP, some of mine, and just kind of, I don't know, I just like sharing that stuff. So where do I want to go from here? As far as going to D3 versus D2, which last time APU was playing, there's a transition, I guess, for all sports here. And what can you tell me the biggest differences in D2 and D3 versus the obvious the levels?
Well, I think the misnomer that I feel like at every level, there's players at every level that can play above. So, there's Division 2 players that can play Division 1. There's FCS players that can play FBS. Like there's D3 players in D2. Like you see it all the time, right? And so just because a player is at a lower level doesn't, and you could say it on the flip side of that. There's D1 players that might not be able to play FCS. Like you could go the other way too. So players can play up and players maybe won't be able to play down. I was a D3 coach and we had guys transfer down from like into our program, and it wasn't like a shoe in like you're going to be an all conference guy. It's competitive everywhere. College football or college athletics, but college football is extremely competitive. So I think there is a misnomer of like the levels because it's more about where can you get developed, right? Because you could go to a team at a higher level that maybe isn't a great program that's not winning a lot. Are you really becoming the best version of yourself versus being at the right level where you're going to sharpen and develop who you are as a player? So we had players at Bethel, the Division 3 school I was at, that by the time they were done, they were easily Division 2, if not maybe FCS level guys, and that was reflected because they got opportunities to pursue professional opportunities afterwards, right? Rookie tryouts at NFL teams out of a D3 school, and so well, how does that happen? It's D3, it's less than the other ones. Well, it's really about where you can be developed. So APU moving to D3, I know it's a transition. The biggest difference, obviously, in football typically is going to be height and size, right? You can see it if you go to a Division 2 versus D3, but it's not always the case. And especially the higher level D3 programs, I'd say they're going to have guys that compete at a really high level. And so, that's what we're striving for. APU was NAI and then they were D2 and now we're D3. To me, the same thing. Like we want to compete at a high level and hopefully compete nationally. Like that to me is our aim. If I'm thinking about a result, I'm very big into the process, so I don't spend a ton of time on like we're going to set 30 goals on things. to me, it's obvious if we're going to play a game, we want to try to win. So every game that we want to play next year, we're going to try to win every single one of those, So I don't want to sit here and go, I want to go I want to go 5-4. And like every single game is an opportunity for us to try to beat the other team. Let's see if we can do that. What's our process to get there? That's where I'm going to spend most of our time. But the biggest thing I'd say, the scholarship level, scholarship can change things. That's significant. So for Division III, we don't have a football scholarship that we can offer players. So the conversation we're having, okay, how are you going to afford school? So typically the better students oftentimes with their GPA is going to help that cost come down. For us local students are another thing, so they can maybe commute in, maybe save money that way. So there's just different conversations. That one year I had at Winona State, with scholarships, we're still having those type of conversations, but it is a little different of how you can, navigate the recruiting process. You can be much more narrow at the scholarship level. Like I was coaching quarterbacks and running backs, and I could say, okay, these are my 5 running backs and these are my 5 quarterbacks that I'm recruiting, and I know I need to get, 1 quarterback and 1 running back. So I just work through those 5. Whereas at Division III, you've got to be a little more creative and broad, I would say, and slow and steady wins the race. Like you got to wait things out because you're not going to typically have kids commit to you because a lot of them are waiting for scholarship opportunities. So you just got to keep building relationships, keep connecting with them, finding kids who fit you. I mean, I don't want to get into a sales pitch with kids. Well, here's why you got to come here and do that because I just think that's not, I don't think, a great way to build relationships. For me, it's more about like letting them know who you are and that the right kids that are attracted to you, then those are the ones you want to recruit, that they have a natural, like, man, APU, like, I want to be in a faith-based community, or I want a high academic experience, or I want to play football locally for some kids here. Like those ones that have a natural kind of like, man, that fits me. I want to stay in those relationships and help build those up so that they might be attracted to come here. I don't ever want to have to talk someone into coming here because then you can't coach them hard. If you're talking them
Yeah.
into coming here, I think you lose your ability to really help coach them hard to develop them, which to me is the whole name of the game here. So that's a long-winded answer about D3, D2, but
Yeah,
you know,
no, and I guess that's the the elephant in the room really is this with D3 that like with so many high school kids wanting to play other at the next level, keep their careers going. There are a lot of options, but there's a lot of elements to it, right? Now you got guys who want literal money, NIL. There's scholarships, there's non-scholarships. So what you're saying is though, with for instance your program in D3, there are other opportunities and ways financially other than quote than true football scholarships. Again, having good grades helps, and being maybe a community service helps. There's other ways to excel at this level.
no doubt. Well, and actually the NIL, you can receive NIL anywhere in the NC2A. So I've had Division III athletes receive NIL. So
Wow.
that like that ruling doesn't it, and obviously it's different amounts at levels, right? Because D3 you're not on TV, so your own market space is just different. But again, it can that's another way you can get creative to maybe close the gap on the price or the cost of the place. So and again, that's for me when it comes to the value for families. Like I want to tell them about it, but I want them to evaluate the value for them, right?
Yeah.
I think that's where you get yourself out of like I'm not a salesman. I am trying to tell you about the opportunity here and then help you through the process. And if you come here or not, that's totally fine with me. Like I told our coaches as we jump into more and more recruiting, like I'm never going to get mad at you if a player doesn't come here. I only get frustrated if we don't treat them well through the process. Like to me, that's our biggest job is, help
Love that.
families through the process, especially as their conversation is to your point. So there'll be kids that we talk to that will have a Division II offer, a junior college offer, and the D3 offer. Those are all 3 very different recruiting kind of like pathways. So I feel it's our job just to help inform them as best we can. And then just trust the process that when we take care of enough families and recruits, that the right ones are going to land with us. And then if they don't, they're going to leave feeling like, man, that was a really good part of my process. And I think that will pay itself, by just taking care of families. It will work out in our favor in the long run.
Yeah, no, that's very well said. It's just interesting. These families have tough decisions, and so many kids now are bouncing around, three, four, five colleges. They're doing the same thing in high school. It's all crazy. I don't know how you do it all out there, Coach. It's a great challenge for you indeed. We'll kind of go some rapid fire stuff if we can. I know that you made no you're not shy about the fact that you get out a lot to watch a lot of high school games. I think you saw Rio, obviously. Last week you saw Maranatha in Rio a few weeks back, so you're really getting out, making the rounds, whether it's summer practices or football games. But I mean, at this point, you kind of have to, right?
Yeah, it's recruiting's it's your lifeblood of your program, and finding the right players that fit you. Like you can solve a lot of problems by how you recruit. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I knew, a lot of our coaches, we've hired our whole staff, but they're all coaching somewhere. So a lot of them I wanted them to finish well, finish where they were, and jump on board when their seasons are done. So that's part of why I've been, kind of one-man crew through the fall, is because when I got hired, I knew the right candidates of who I wanted in our program for coaching staff, and I knew I wanted them to finish well where they were. So it was a blend of those two things. So I just said I gotta hammer and get out, and it has been a unique opportunity. Just that without a team, we had our three players, but most of what they're doing was our strength conditioning, so we weren't practicing with them. So it was, hey, Monday through, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, let's get out to practice. Thursday, Friday, let's get out to games. Some Saturdays, let's get out to JC games. And we had Saturday kind of recruiting visits as trying to get people on campus. So it's been awesome. Like for me, I love practices. I love seeing that environment. I love what it's so encouraging. There's so many great programs all throughout this state, obviously, and in this region for sure. And just great men pouring into these young men's lives. And so super encouraging for me just to be there. I love being around football and football practices, and then obviously games are fun too, in terms of just seeing kids compete and having the opportunity to compete in front of their community. I mean, it's just tremendous. So it's been a really cool, like, professional development is what I thought of, like, this fall. It's unique that way. Like I've been part of a team pretty much my whole career. So to have, I am part of a team, but not have a season plus with it is an interesting dynamic. So but yeah, the recruiting side, I really do love recruiting. I laugh. My very first job, I was a middle school athletic director and PE teacher at Finn Hill Junior High, and I honestly think that's where I learned how to recruit. I sat in the lunchroom, all day, like at both the A and the B lunch, and I sat there and I just tried to, like, invite kids to be part of something. Hey, you should be part of the badminton team. Hey, you should be part of and a lot of times that's all it took. Like, just inviting them to be part of something that was unique and special, and being part of a team is. And so I learned how to recruit there. I was like, this is really fun, when you can help someone maybe step out of their comfort zone and be part of something. So I figured that out actually when I got to college, when I started coaching college and you start recruiting officially that way. I was like, I feel like I picked this up a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
And so I think, yeah, the recruiting at APU, especially, I think for me, to be recruiting to a place that I really believe in, to hear the transformational stories from all the alums, and to know that I believe there's real value here. That I have real conviction behind the story we're sharing with the recruits and the community around, and so I just get fired up talking about it. I really do. We had a recruiting visit on Saturday, and it was just dumping rain, and these families came all the way from wherever they were coming from to be part of it, and it's just so much fun to just be part of people's process. And I just have a ton of faith where the right guys are going to find us. I really do. So I'm excited about seeing that come together.
Yeah, no, there's so many options out there. You're going to be participating in the SCIAC, Laverne, Claremont, Pomona, Redlands, always a power. Cal-Lu, I mean, what they can do. I mean, there's some real challenges ahead for some of the blue bloods of the SCIAC. So fun stuff, and not to mention all the JCs, Mount Sac, Citrus, what they're doing. There's a lot of opportunities. So for APU to stand out and be an option, I think is a challenge. But it sounds like you're well more than up for it. Coach, as we won't keep you too much longer, but just, you already said it, but as far as I always tell guys in playing, and it's not just the stats you put up, it's the coaches watch. how you carry yourselves, how you celebrate with teammates, what you do if you're show. But we see so much of that in today's game. And I saw it a lot in baseball in my time. And I talked to college coaches and they're like, yeah, we saw this guy do that. And you guys watch more than just how fast the guy is or how strong he is, right? There's so much more that goes into keeping an eye on players than meets the eye.
Yeah, no question. When I'm at a game on a Friday night, I actually typically I'll watch the sideline. More in terms of if I'm watching a specific player, I want to see how they respond, good or bad. Something happens on the field. What's their response on the sideline? Are they coachable? Are they a great teammate? What kind of effort do they have in and off the sideline? I mean, just the stuff because I can pull up a kid's huddle highlights and see the stuff on film, on the field, but the stuff in between, when the ball is spotted and the film's not running, or at least we don't get to see it on a huddle highlight. That's oftentimes what I'm looking for. And for us in the recruiting process, we only ever offer a player after we've talked to a high school head coach. So it's like equally, we are very big on high school head coach references because I just think they've seen the ups and the downs. They've been through those tough moments. They've been through the high moments, and they've seen their athletes kind of function in those. So I think at a game, and that's why practice actually, that's probably why I enjoyed this year was unique. I got to go to practices. That's a totally different environment. You get to see, what is the young man doing on those days that are probably not as easy. Friday night lights is a little bit easier to get up for and get excited for than a Monday or Tuesday practice. So watching these student athletes in these different moments, I think is always kind of fun. I actually always love going to other sports for players too. So when
Ooh.
we get to the winter season, I love going to basketball. I love going to wrestling in the spring, going to track, baseball, like seeing them in a different setting. Are they still competing? Is their athleticism still showing up? Are they coachable? Like who are they in these different settings? And to me, that's where I think you kind of know, man, this is a slam dunk. We can't miss on this kid because if they can do it in multiple settings and you get more people that you're getting a feel for who they are, I think that's when it gets really fun. You feel like, man, we got the right guy here. So, again, I love recruiting. It's especially D3. It kind of never ends. There is no signing day, so you're kind of constantly, building your roster and trying to build connections with recruits. And so, I see it as an opportunity. I think some people might see it differently, but I think it's a tremendous opportunity to find great people that fit what you're trying to do. So.
Well, your enthusiasm, coach, is quite contagious. I'm ready to do. Hey, whatever you need, coach. Let's get this going. But no, best of luck to you and the Cougars in the fall of 2026. I'm sure you'll be out and about still watching plenty of high school playoff football. Man, there's nothing like it. And so, good lessons. I think the lesson ultimately, you never know who's watching. Is the kind of a good motto to live by there. So, if you could, your final, our Rio Hondo is brotherhood, toughness, and discipline is kind of our team motto. Kind of, if you could sum up your program in a few words, kind of a motto or a phrase that you want to live by.
Yeah, chase your best is ours. So Matthew 5:16, let your light shine so others see your good deeds and follow and glorify your Father in heaven. To me, I want all of our young men to try, like, how can you take what God's given you, the talents on the field, off the field, the gifts that He's given you, and let's get them to the next version of that, the next best version, because your community needs you to be that guy. And the best version of who you are is needed by people around you. I have my two sons at home. They need me to be the best version of myself for them. And so how do I continue to show up that way? So that's our biggest thing that's kind of the bedrock of our program is, everyone has to choose that though. I think some people think growth is like, I just show up and I'm going to grow. And I think you have to really choose growth. I got to make that decision on a daily basis. And I believe in our own faith walk, that's the same thing. Like I got to choose Jesus today and humble myself to say, I can't do this. I need Him so that I can become that best version. So that's our biggest thing. Our environment to get that is about challenge and care. Like I always say, like we need guys to challenge each other and themselves, and we need them to care about each other and themselves. And so, iron sharpens iron. So one man sharpens another. Proverbs 27:17. The environment matters a ton. And so to get there, that best version, we need great people who can sharpen each other. We don't talk about the grind as much. I know that's definitely in football culture, but I'm all about sharpening. I want guys to be sharpened so they are useful for others. They become that next best version of who they are. But I need to be around great people so I get sharpened. So that environment of who we bring in and whom I'm around, it matters a ton. So those are our key things for us. There's a lot of things to unpack under there, but that's kind of the quick, elevator synopsis of what we're trying to strive for here in the development of the people, like myself included. I don't think this is just for our players. I think this is anyone who comes into APU football. How do you become the best version of who God's created you to be, and then how do you give that away to the people around you and sharpen others by how you live? So. That's our charge. I love the charge to keep. I mean, I think that's such a cool thought process that there's responsibility for people when you have gifts and talents. There's a responsibility to try to hone those and become that person for other people around you. So, and there's a ton of joy in that too. I love that thought that I had a teammate. And he said it best, a teammate I played with in college, and he said, we get the joy and God gets the glory, and how awesome that is when we're using all the talents God's given us for others, not just for ourselves. There's a tremendous amount of joy in purpose, right? Like knowing, man, I'm helping people. Like these gifts God's given me, I'm giving out to the people around me, and it's helping. And there's tremendous glory that goes to God when these are not my gifts. These are gifts He's given me, and I'm using them hopefully to the best of my ability. So I get really fired up about that idea of just, when you see that in play in people, it's encouraging, right? You can't help but be encouraged by it. So.
Well, we cannot help be encouraged by you, sir. That was, I think, just what a lot of us needed to hear. Whether we're football fans or not, that was some great stuff, Coach Parnell. Congratulations on the new hire, the head coaching position. Well deserved. Can't wait to see how your team does. And thanks for coming on short notice, Coach, and just chatting life and football with me. It's always a joy chatting with someone who values these things like you do. So thanks so much, Coach Parnell.
Yeah, you got it, Matt. I appreciate all you guys do at this whole thing is so awesome. So excited to continue to follow the Rio Hondo story this year. It's a pretty tremendous one.
Well, it has been a rather lengthy show after two very fun interviews. I told you guys, I think you guys would really appreciate this banger of a show. But for the semifinals at D5, I mean, we got to bring it, right? We had the breakdown of Serna with Coach Montoya, and then Coach Parnell there talking about, recruiting and APU football coming back. I mean, I don't know. It seemed fitting to me. And although you could have had these guys maybe at separate times, just one guest, I said, you know what? It's the semis. Let's throw it together. Obviously, we needed Coach Montoya on, with his breakdown of Serna and Rio Hondo Prep, that common opponent for this week. And then Coach Parnell ran into, and we talked, and I said, I'd love to have him on the show. And I don't want to be that guy that speaks, and says, well, we'll have you on next week. And then we lose, and then it doesn't end up happening. So I had to take advantage of Coach Parnell being available. And so that's why we did the double guest. And I know the podcast may go a little long. Some of you guys are like, well, the drive isn't that far. And that's why we put this out Wednesday. You could break it up, chop it up, however you like. You get me rambling for 15 minutes or so, maybe 20 today. And then you get Coach Montoya for 30, 40 minutes, another 40 minutes or so with, Coach Parnell. So hopefully you guys are full and ready to go for the Division 5 Southern Section semifinals between Serna and Rio Hondo Prep. In my opinion, one of the biggest games in the history of the San Gabriel Valley, especially in the postseason. I won't ramble too much more about any of that since we had two great guests. We've already broken down Serna. I'll just add this, finish with the exclamation point, as I like to do, kind of a rules reference or a officiating philosophy. I think in the playoffs, this is something the officials will always tell the coaches, right? Sometimes you tell the coaches and that you need to practice what you preach, right? Or preach what you practice, however you want to phrase it. And this is me not being, I can be allowed to be a little critical of my officials out there. I could say my officials because I've still won it hard. I still look at the game, right, through that kind of lens at all times. And I communicate with Coach Carson when things come up, trying to keep our guys, in order and communicate to you fans and everything. There was a play. There wasn't much that happened in our game the other night. And so officials talk about, and we had little catchphrases in officiating, right? Get the alligators, let the lizards go. Get the alligators, let the lizards, and there may be another form of it. Get the crocodiles, let the lizards go, whatever. And there may be some, just other ways to say that. But basically meaning get the big stuff, the things that everyone can see. Oh, it's like, oh, that's got to be called, right? It could be a massive takedown or it could be a late hit. Things that everyone could see in the playoffs, that's what you want to see, right? Get the big stuff. That's why we shouldn't gripe so much about the little things. It's like, okay, was there a hold on that play? Yeah, but it was a 5-yard loss, or it was a no gain, or a 2-yard loss. Do you need a flag on that? Probably not, right? There's the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law, and that's kind of the whole thing with getting the alligators and letting the lizards go. Well, there was a game, unfortunately, the Charter Oak quarterfinal last week where there was 4th and 38. 4th and 38, man. Charter Oak had, they were in overtime, or maybe it was regulation, whenever it was. And, they very questionable roughing the passer call, which is an automatic first down in high school, one of the only ones out there, right? It gave the other team a first down. They went on, still first and 10 from the 29. Charter Oak, you still got to keep playing at that point. But I guess my message, because we bring that up, right, and it's not a knock on Charter Oak, I feel bad. They got jobbed. It was a very bad call. And in my opinion, in my very humble opinion, who supports officials, I just try to say it like it is. To me, it wasn't big enough. It wasn't a crocodile. It wasn't an alligator. If it was anything, it was a lizard, and maybe a lizard without a tail, if you know what I mean. So you got to get the alligators, let the lizards go, right? Coach can't argue with you about an alligator call. It's just like, okay. They always say, let them play in the playoffs. My great friend, Tracy McFay, the old signer of the Foothill Citrus unit, an APU guy, by the way, used to work for APU for many years. But anyway, get the alligators, let the lizards go. And so us fans, let's take knowledge of that. Sometimes the score dictates, hey, how come that's not called? How come that's not called? Well, at this point, let's keep the game moving if we can. Get the big ones, let the little stuff go, right? And that said, my challenge to Rio, fans, coaches, whoever, and maybe a challenge to Lacerna, to anybody. If something goes horribly wrong in the game, a very bad call, okay, let's just say there is a bad call. I hope there isn't. But if there is something that doesn't go your way, you got to find a way, as hard as it may be, you got to move on to the next play, the next pitch. That's the mentality for a semifinal game. I've talked, the line that is so thin between Lacerna and Rio Hondo Prep, right? Coach Montoya, we're talking, it could be anything, a blocked extra point, a missed assignment. It could be something as simple as, man, a bad call happened and then the mentality just went out the window. You got to move on. You got to find a way. You cannot control everything that happens in a football game, especially officiating, as far as officiating goes. As far as when I was an official, we couldn't control other things that went on. But that's my challenge is to the fan base. You be upset, be mad. That's fine. But you got to turn the page real quick. All right? This page you just read was awful. All kinds of bad stuff happened. You better turn it. Because if you stick on that page, you won't turn it all the way. You're still, yeah, but 2 plays ago, it's not going to help. It's semifinals, man. Be upset about a bad call. You don't have to like everything, but some of the best coaches out there, they're able to turn the page real quick because whether right or wrong, you got to keep going. You got to keep playing. You got to keep coaching. So, newsflash, there's going to be some bad calls this weekend somewhere. Hopefully not our game, but, it's who responds best to incorrect calls, marginal calls. There was correct, incorrect, marginal calls was kind of how our grading always went. You never wanted to be that marginal guy. Never wanted that incorrect call for sure. But anyway, my long-winded rant here is that bad stuff's going to happen. It's competitive. It's high level. It's intensity. It's a human element. Some kid's going to fumble. Some official may make a bad call. It's part of the game. It's how you respond to it that really, really dictates and puts you in a better position to be successful. The game may end. It may not have gone your way. And then you want to look back at play. Okay, that's human nature. I'm not going to tell you not to be human. But in a football game, high leverage, high level football game, keep your wits about you. Don't let a bad call beat you twice. I love Sean McVay. One of the things he always says is never let a team beat you twice. Or never let a team beat you twice. Meaning if a team beats you, you're still thinking about that loss. And then the next team, you lose to them also. Same thing with officiating and calls, okay? And it maybe anything. Maybe there's an unfortunate play. Someone fumbled. Maybe, I don't know, a team, it could be anything. The point is, turn that page begrudgingly. And once you turn that page, try not to go back to it. All right. The next play, the next page, the next pitch, however you want to phrase it. All right. That's my challenge, everybody. Because unfortunate play in that Charter Oak game. I my condolences for the Charter Oak Chargers over there. We have some good friends over there, and especially friends, family, all this and that. So anyway, control what you can control and act accordingly. Move on. Keep playing. Next snap, next snap, next snap until there are no more. All right. That's all I have to say today. The Charge to Keep podcast headed to the semifinals alongside Rio Hondo Prep and La Serna in what is definitely going to be one of the highest anticipated games in San Gabriel Valley history. As I sit here now, this game will likely be at Covina District Field, and I can promise you we will see quite a rumble of epic proportion on Friday night. Rain, shine, we'll see. Whatever happens, however this game goes down, I can promise you a highly contested, major hitting, violent, legally, of course, violent, great execution by both teams, the chess matches by both coaches. I have to tell you guys, get out to this game. This game is Charter Oak level proportion to those that are like, well, I don't know. I know it might be raining, but La Serna against Rio Hondo Prep, some of these games are like once in a lifetime opportunities. And I know we've had a lot of those lifetime opportunities the past few years, but let's keep them coming, and let's get the RHP faithful out there, loud, proud, show these boys what that small school in Arcadia is all about, show them just how big our alumni presence is, and man, I really hope I get to do another pregame show next week. If this is it, it's been an honor and a privilege, but a very quality opponent in the Serna Lancers, and I can promise you at the end of this game, the Rio Hondo Prep faithful, you will be proud of the young men who are singing that alma mater, win or lose. We're going to sing it with them loudly. But Rio Hondo Prep students or football players, I know that no one will play harder, smarter, with more class than the RHP guys out there. Let's keep that going. La Serna, I'm sure they're going to do a lot of the same thing and carry themselves accordingly. They're well coached, great program. So something's got to give here. I think this is a very close game, and every play is going to matter. Bring your voice, bring everything, because we are ready for a major rumble on Friday night. You don't want to miss it. The Division 5 Southern Section Division semifinals, La Serna and Rio Hondo Prep. We'll see you there. Covina District Field, as we sit now. It's going to be a fun one. Let's get ready to rumble, guys. It's going to be a fun one. And in closing, as always, to you Rio Hondo Prep faithful out there, always be humble in victory and gracious in defeat, because we always have a charge to keep.
Listen to me now, it's coming down to the two of us. Let me show you how, listen to me now, it's coming down to the two of us. Listen to me now.